On AM 1130 by 99.9 FM, Prescott, Chino Valley, and Paulden 95.5 FM, Prescott Valley and Cottonwood, the talk of the Quad Cities, KQNA. It's
Hammer Time.
Waking Up with the YCCA. Hammer Time is brought to you by Lawhorn Plumbing, Verde Valley Alarm Services, Earthworks Landscape and Supply, Prescott Home Safety, Greenlee Designer Services, Get Right Mitigation, Franklin Plumbing, The Blind Brothers, Caltex, Vicente Landscaping, Barrett Propane, and Badger Roofing. And now from the studios of KQNA, it's Hammer Time, Waking Up with the YCCA. Here's the Executive Director of the Yavapai County Contractors Association, Sandy Griffiths.
Hey everybody, good morning and welcome to Hammer Time, brought to you by YCCA. Wingman Mike,
Yes.
We're in April.
It's flying by.
What's happening in 4 weeks?
Gosh, I don't know, something maybe at the
Come
center
on.
down in Prescott Valley, also known as the home for the YCCA annual home show.
Finley Toyota Center, listeners, April 25th, 26th, and 27th. It's right around the corner.
It is right around the corner.
Holy moly,
It's going to be here before you know it.
It will be 4 weeks from today.
Perfect.
So how many days till Christmas?
4 weeks plus about another 8 months.
Okay, 8 months? 19? Oh, yeah, it is 8 months. We're in April. Happy spring, happy Easter, happy just happy.
Just happy.
Just plain good old-fashioned happy.
And we're going to go with the flow. We've got a little bit of recent weather issues, but I have it on good authority that it's going to be beautiful for the home show.
Yes, everything will be good. We're excited. We've got great vendors. We have some kind of different arrangements for outside space, but
kind of
it is
a new
what
look.
it is.
It'll be fine.
A new look, a new face. So be sure and come to the home show, April 25th, 26th, 27th. Free admission. Friday and Saturday, 9 to 5, Sunday, 9 to 3.
You know, that's one thing that does definitely separate us from the other home shows around. So every time I see the home and garden show advertised down in the valley, I just have to chuckle.
They charge big bucks.
Yes, they do.
So anyway, we've got a super show this morning. We have a guest that has never, ever been on our show.
Well, it's about time.
Well, quite a few of them are mostly new guests, but this is a industry partner.
And he's been around for a while, so I'm surprised we have not hooked up.
Forever and ever. So take us to break, and when we come back, we will talk to our first-time person.
A newbie, as they say.
Yes, he's a great newbie.
Great. Well, we'll introduce him shortly. In the meantime, you're listening to Hammer Time, brought to you by Yavapai County Contractors Association, and we're tickled pink to be airing on Talk of the Quad Cities, KQNA 1130 AM, 99.9 FM, and in Cottonwood and Prescott Valley, 95.5 FM. So sit back, relax, get that second cup of coffee or a glass of OJ, and we'll be right back.
You're listening to Hammer Time, Waking Up with the YCCA, a presentation of the Yavapai County Contractors Association. Once again, here's your host, Sandy Griffiths.
Hey everybody, good morning once again, and welcome to Hammer Time, brought to you by Yavapai County Contractors Association. And
all of our stellar sponsors.
Perfect answer. I'm happy that you were paying attention.
Yes, I would. It took me a nanosecond.
I know, it did. Way to catch on there, dude. Way to catch on. I might have to give you an A+ for that. So our guest with us this morning is Mr. John Myers. He's the regional manager for Banker Insulation.
Welcome aboard.
Thank you. Thanks for having me.
Yeah, John, this is going to be amazing. We're going to talk about insulation. We're going to talk about fireplaces. We're going to talk about gutters.
Cool.
Yeah, we do them all.
Can you do that?
We can.
Okay, so I have a funny, sometimes I tell I think they're kind of cute jokes. Mm-hmm. So why was the laptop late to school? Come on, John.
Couldn't get his windows closed.
Oh, now that's good.
I was trying to think of something with Windows. That's a good one.
Good job.
Not right, but good.
Yeah, not right. It had a hard drive.
Okay, I'll buy that one
Okay,
too.
what do you think?
I like the windows, actually.
I kind of like the windows. He couldn't get his windows closed. John, I think that is amazing. Way to go. From now on, you could be the joke writer. So you are the regional manager for, what is your region?
My region is, so I run our Prescott Valley office, our Cornville office, and our Snowflake office. So it's kind of a little disjointed, but they overlap quite a bit.
That's kind of a lot disjointed.
It well,
Are you like a road warrior?
I am. I got a brand new truck in November, and it had 64 miles on it when I got it. It now has 15,000.
Whoa. November of 2024.
Mm-hmm.
That's almost a year's worth of mileage in a few months.
Well, that jump over to Snowflake takes a little bit.
It does. Luckily, so Payson has always been our kind of halfway point. So Payson has always been for Snowflake, but Pine and Strawberry and Happy Jack we've done with Cornville and Prescott Valley. So I still see my team members from there quite often when we'll meet up in Payson.
Cool.
What about Zoom meetings?
I did one of those today. I had my Snowflake
Okay, cool.
my Snowflake staff meeting this morning at 9.
They work pretty well.
They do.
Okay, so how long have you been with Banker Insulation?
So I have been with Banker now for coming on 7 years. May of
Perfect.
2018 is when I
Okay.
started in Snowflake.
And then they moved you over here.
Yeah, and then I moved over here in October of 24.
Okay.
Okay.
So you're kind of a newbie.
Newbie to the area, yeah.
Okay, well, welcome, newbie.
Yeah, but then my office manager here, Allison, was also my office manager for Snowflake
Okay.
for my first 4 years.
So he's newbie in our area, and the newbie has a new truck.
Yeah.
That's kind of a cool thing.
But an existing assistant.
Yes.
Yes.
That's right.
I won't say old. I'm just going to say
Existing. That's a very good
I
terminology.
think she would appreciate that.
Yes.
Exactly.
Okay, so let's first talk about insulation.
Okay.
What is it? There's so many different types.
There is.
Why do we need it? How come some of it itches?
And why does some of it come in one color and not in another?
Yes.
Well, the insulation is the stuff that goes in your walls and your attics to help keep your paid-for air where you want it. So, and it helps keep the cool air in the house in the summertime and the warm air in the house in the wintertime. What it does, it just creates a barrier for the air to move through before it gets to the outside. And so the better the insulation you have, the more likely you are to keep what you paid for where you want it.
You know, John, that's an interesting tag. I've never heard that used, paid for air. That's a good description.
Very good.
Very
So
good
it
description.
keeps the hot air out?
Well, to keep the hot air in the wintertime, but it'll really
Okay.
keep your cool air
All
in
right.
the summertime.
So how does it know? Okay. It's kind of like the thermos then. How does it know to keep the cold and the hot hot?
Yeah.
How does the insulation know what month we're in and what the climate is?
Well, it's essentially keeping how you're trying to keep your house comfort-wise. It's going to keep that comfort level for you.
You know why it works so well at night?
Why?
Because you're keeping it in the dark.
Oh, listeners.
Moving right along.
Boom. Moving right along. Okay. So can you have too much insulation?
I would say no. The only way that it would be too much is if it doesn't fit in the area that you're trying to put it in.
Okay, so Mike.
Yes.
Can you have too much insulation?
Well, I would just say that there is a certain trade-off level where it's most productive. You can continue to add insulation, but the value of that added insulation diminishes
Oh,
the higher you go. So
Okay.
if you put 12 inches of blown insulation in, that's great. If you put 18 inches in, you're not going to get another 50%.
are you going to get any percentage?
Oh, sure.
Okay.
Sure. Yep.
Enough to make a difference?
Well, that's a value call for each individual.
Okay. So why do we put blown insulation in an attic in most cases? Or do we do it in the walls, or do we do foam insulation, or what's the blanket kind of stuff that unrolls?
That is a fiberglass bath.
Yes, okay.
Yeah.
So what do
well,
we use?
I've done
everything?
I've done everything.
Yes to
Okay.
all the above.
Yeah.
Does one work better than another?
There are certain benefits that you get for different types. You can get the highest R value with a closed cell foam in your walls, but you're going to pay for it. You get a very good R value for cost effective with going with a bat. But I've done blown in. You can do blown cellulose in a wall. That's what kind of wet applied. It gets applied with water, so it sticks, and then they shave it down so it's completely filled. We also do what's called a net and blow. We'll put a netting up on the face of the studs, and then we'll poke a little hole in it and blow it in with fiberglass. And so you really get a higher R value there than you would with the cellulose or really with a bat, unless you paid for a premium bat. That's kind of where I like to be. I like the net and blow applications because you get a really good R value for pretty cost-effective application.
So would you say that the value of insulation increases from starting with bat in exterior walls, bat to cellulose to blown net?
Yeah, and then open cell foam and then closed cell foam would be a pretty premium in an exterior wall.
So what do most people and or builders elect to use?
When I started, it was pretty much all fiberglass. It was fiberglass bat. It is moving more and more to foam the more we go. I think probably in the next 10 years or so, you'll actually see it as code to be foam because you're getting not only a really good R value. You know, if we do a full fill in the cavity with an open cell foam, you get an R21, R22, but you're also getting a vapor barrier, and you're also pretty much sealing up the house. It's going to be pretty airtight.
So share with our listeners, because some may not know what an R value is.
So an R value, it measures the resistance that the material is going to put up to allow air to move through it. So the higher the R value, the more time it takes for air to pass through that cavity and then reach the outside.
Also called air exchange.
Mm-hmm.
So how did they ever determine what the air exchange is? How do you know? I like all these how do you know questions.
UL.
Yeah, you'd have to ask the people with little letters behind
I was
their
going to
names.
say, yeah, does somebody sit there with a little time clock and a thermometer or a gauge on the other end of it to see how long it takes for this air to come out the
Before
other
those
side?
materials ever make it to the marketplace,
Yeah, the UL, I know.
they are definitely tested
They are.
over and over and over. Yep.
Well, it would maybe be kind of cool to be a UL tester. I would like to be a cheese tester or a bubblegum
See,
tester.
my luck would be that they'd put me on the hot side of the
Yeah, and you'd
insulation.
be having to
So
test
I'd
the
be
hot air. You'd be
dehydrated
outside.
by the time I got
Yeah,
out. Yeah.
not good. Okay, so we got the R value down. That's interesting. So what's the, I kind of like the insulation that expands when they put, what is that one where they put it in?
That's the foam.
I like that. It's so cool.
grows.
Yes.
The other insulation that we will not need to talk about once we get back from our next break is roof insulation or attic insulation, because that's, in my opinion, where really the industry started a big change.
No, you're right, Mike. That is big. So, listeners, we're going to take a break. When we come back, we will continue our insulation fireplace gutter conversation with Mr. John Myers, Regional Manager of Banker Insulation. And I will quit asking my how does it know questions. We'll be right back.
You're listening to Hammer Time, waking up with the YCCA, a presentation of the Yavapai County Contractors Association. Once again, here's your host, Sandy Griffiths.
We are back on air, and boy, did we have a lot of questions during our break. So, Mike,
Yes.
take it away with our first question to John.
Well, we were getting ready to get into the attic insulation, which right before we left for our last break. And there's various ways of insulating your attic. Traditional ways of blown and bat, the new basically format of doing your foam insulation at the roof deck, in other words, at the top of your trusses. So John can basically, I don't want to steal his thunder, he can give us the advantage of all of the above.
The biggest advantage that we found when doing directly against the roof deck is you can actually go with a lower R value. You don't need as much insulation when it's directly against the roof as you do when it's down on top of your drywall.
Okay, I would say, why is that? Because the heat comes in from the roof.
Yeah.
So it's trying to get into the house.
But you're not allowing it basically to penetrate and create a
So you
what
put
I
a
call
good
heat
barrier
sink.
up there.
Exactly.
Okay.
Yeah, and because whenever you insulate it, we are making now an unvented attic space, and so we're creating the attic is now a semi-conditioned space, just kind of like your living room is a conditioned space. You're not going to have those air exchanges. You're not bringing hot air in from the outside or cold air in from the outside. You're now paid for your air that's in the attic, and so you want to get the insulation above that air.
Okay, so why is it that so many roofers say that our roofs are not vented properly?
If you have a traditional insulation at your ceiling level and not at the roof deck
Okay.
level, then what happens is that cavity known as the attic actually builds up and holds heat. I mean, it can be 130, 140
Right.
degrees very easily in a hot summer day. And so that, in essence, that heat day in and day out and week in and week out starts baking the underside of the shingles and, more importantly, the underlayment under the shingles. So that's what they're referring to.
So share with our listeners, because we're just a radio show and not visual, what it means with the roof deck.
So that is the roof itself, where pretty typically you have an OSB sheeting down
Right.
that they then put their underlayment and then their shingles or their tiles on. We're going to go directly and install our foam or fiberglass directly against that layer of OSB on the underneath side.
So now, if you have a roof issue and a roof challenge, and some of that OSB needs to be removed, does that affect your insulation
It will.
process?
When they pull that OSB
Yeah.
to be replaced, then they'll have to call us back in to replace the foam.
Do you see a lot of roof decking insulation? Does it happen on every new home now, or no?
Not everyone.
Okay.
It's probably about 50-50 right now.
So, energy-wise, that is something that a homeowner should think about?
One of the things that I've told my clients and contractors, and it sounds like I'm trying to upsell them because the foam traditionally has been more expensive than fiberglass, but these days they're within pennies on the dollar of each other. So it sounds like you're trying to sell them something more, but I always tell them, take into account if you're going to spend extra money on upgrades, upgrade your insulation first. You can always get new cabinets or new countertops or new floors later. If you want to upgrade your insulation later, it's going to be a full remodel. You got to take drywall down. We're going to the studs. You know, you're not going to see what I do once your home is finished, but you're going to feel it. And to upgrade after you're already living there is then cost a lot. So upgrade while you're building, and then do your appliances later. It's really hard to upgrade your insulation later.
So what type of insulation process do you use, Mike?
I use and what made it, I'm going to backtrack just a second. I use the foam at the roof decking and have been for, a number of years. I don't know how many years I'd have to go back, but I can tell you the first one I did, which is probably, I'm going to say maybe 15 years ago, 12, 15 years ago. First one I did was out in American Ranch, and we had to go back in. The mechanical systems were up in the attic, and we had to go in about 2 months after the house was built because a part had come in for one of the units. And I thought, oh my gosh, it's going to be 100, and it was in the middle of summer. It's going to be 130 degrees up there. We actually put in ladders to get up into his attic. Pulled the ladder down and went up there, and it was either 7 or 8 degrees difference.
Oh my gosh.
Between the livable area in the house and the temperature in the attic. And right there, that sold me.
I did a continuing education class through Pulte Homes from the Valley 4 or 5 years ago, and the guy had insulated his house with an R20, only 6 inches of foam in Mesa, And they did a study on it in July. It was 115 degrees outside. His house was 80 degrees. And his attic was 85 degrees.
Yeah. It's amazing.
Interesting, amazing.
And it really, if you stop and think about it, if you're retarding both either the heat or the cold up at the roof surface up on top, you're not letting that attic area build up either heat or cold.
Right.
And so it just really makes a lot more sense.
So it can add to the longevity, number one, of the roof and assist with energy bills.
Right.
It does, because it can even help you lower your HVAC system. You can go with a smaller unit, a smaller AC, a smaller furnace.
Yep. Because if that heat sink up in the attic in the summertime, if that attic, and if you don't do the roof and condition it, or the foam at the roof decking and condition it, then it has to be vented, but it's still going to be very hot. And so what happens is that heat then transfers through the insulation through the drywall of your ceiling into the house. So that's why there's such a big difference.
Interesting. So what do you have in your house?
Well, that's we were talking
here
off,
we go, John.
off air.
I know.
Because my house was built some years ago, the foam wasn't available at that time, and I've toyed with the idea of removing the blown insulation,
Oh,
shooting
that would be a
in
big deal.
foam, but it would be extremely expensive.
Wait, John, a potential client.
It is. We're actually in the process of doing a job just like that in Winslow today.
Oh,
really?
my word.
Interesting.
So people are doing it.
Yeah.
You know,
Can
and
be done.
energy's become very costly, so good for them. So now, I forgot, when you build a new home, you have to turn in the energy reports. What is that? I forgot what it's called, Mike.
If you hadn't asked me, I could have told
I
you.
wanted to
Keep
s-
talking, I'll come up with
I
it.
wanted to say ESR, but I don't recall those reports having insulation components to them. So how would you know, John, if you get away with installing a smaller HVAC unit?
That is just, I want to say it's a talking point, but it's just something that we know that we can mention to our contractor so that they can then go to their HVAC subcontractor to talk about what their needs are. If they're going to have this insulation package, where do they need to be as far as their HVAC is
Okay,
because a lot of people have different modeling components that they can plug in. If we give them what our values are going to be in the walls and in the roof, then they can come back and say you need this many tons of AC or your furnace to be this size.
Yeah, that report whose name I'm just drawing
I
a
know.
blank on.
I want to call it the ESR sheet.
Once you turn that in, though, it does have that insulation value.
Oh, it does.
Exactly, because you have to have all your calculations involved.
Yes, so
For your
you
HVAC.
would have to know.
Yep. Same thing with the doors and windows.
Right, the windows we know are on there, so interesting. Okay, Mike, take us to break. When we come back, we'll have more conversation with John.
You betcha. John's educating us everything we need to know about insulation, but we're also going to get into fireplaces and gutters. So hang tight, fill up that second cup of coffee, and we'll be right back.
You're listening to Hammer Time, waking up with the YCCA, a presentation of the Yavapai County Contractors Association. Once again, here's your host, Sandy Griffiths.
Hey everybody, good morning and welcome to Hammer Time. Just to let you know, if you just woke up and tuned in and missed the first part of our show, or you have to leave now, you can catch a replay tomorrow morning, Sunday, 7 a.m., same great station. Here are funny jokes, our great sponsors, and information on insulation.
I was just going to say, especially if they've missed the very first, they have to listen tomorrow to get your joke.
Exactly. That was you guys, John, you really almost nailed it, buddy. Let's talk about fireplaces.
Perfect.
Okay.
Do you put a lot of them in?
We do. I have 3 different fireplace crews for my 3 branches. Well, 4, because I also do our Flagstaff office and their fireplaces. So I am putting them in all over northern Arizona.
Wood burning or primarily gas?
These days it's primarily gas.
Okay.
But we do wood burning fireplaces. We do freestanding wood burning stoves. I even do freestanding gas stoves.
Oh my gosh, I've not ever heard about that one.
Yeah. So it looks like a wood burning stove freestanding, but you just flip the switch and the flame comes on with gas.
Neat.
That is kind of cool.
I actually use one of those to heat our office in Snowflake.
Huh. So one of the things that people may not understand is it is a separate license to install fireplaces. So
Correct.
a carpenter, for example, that's building your house, unless they have that certification, their framing certification does not allow them to install fireplaces. So you want to make sure that you're dealing with a licensed fireplace installer.
You know, Mike, you're very spot on with that. That's critical because
absolutely.
we've seen a lot of not properly licensed folks installing fireplaces, and now there's life and safety measures.
And people may not understand why. In the case of a gas fireplace, obviously you've got gas hookups, and you've got to be very careful about that all of your gas connections are sealed. But just as important, the venting is the venting. And if your venting isn't sealed or vented correctly, then you can get that carbon monoxide back into the house.
Yep, you're right. So you're primarily installing gas fireplaces.
Correct.
Mike, do you have a fireplace in your home?
I do.
Oh, just one or multiple?
Just one.
Okay. Gas or wood burning?
Yes.
John, what do you think that means?
Means he probably has a wood-burning fireplace with a gas log lighter, or he has a gas log kit in it so he uses that instead of burning wood.
Ding, 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 ding.
Oh,
Exactly.
you slacker.
No. Well, and there, I will tell you, in my opinion, there's nothing like the smell of a wood-burning fireplace.
Right.
And in the winter, and I mean, it's very romantic, but it's also has its trade-offs.
It does.
As far as the smoke, the soot, the
Cleaning, the storing of wood, the
Yep.
ashes.
So I would prefer to do that if I go somewhere and to a lodge or something in the wintertime, get my fill of the smoky wood fireplace, and then come home to a clean one.
Okay, does your fireplace have a blower on it?
Yes, it does.
Oh, okay, good. Have you been using it?
Not as much this winter. Of course, we've
Okay,
had a pretty
I
mild
know,
winter.
we have had.
So, but a couple times.
So, John, back to fireplaces. Do you install them retrofit as well after the fact, or are yours always in new builds?
We do both.
Oh, okay.
Majority is going to be new builds, but we've done retrofits. We've taken existing ones out and put new ones in.
Okay.
We've put inserts into existing ones to change them up. We've added fireplaces to existing homes that didn't have them before. So we've run the gamut on it.
Wood-burning stoves, that's got me interested because
I
we used to have a
know.
wood-burning stove in our cabin in Colorado, and you just don't see those anymore.
You don't see them often. I do a fair amount of them over in Snowflake, but not so much here. But in the more rural areas where people are using them for their primary heat source,
Right.
we do a lot of them.
Yep.
Done a lot of them on the Navajo Reservation and a lot of them on the Apache Reservation.
Because ours was up in the mountains of Colorado, and in the wintertime, it had a reservoir to the side, so you could take snow, literally, put it in there. It would melt the snow, and it'd warm the water up, so you had hot water.
Oh my gosh, you were so spoiled. So spoiled, so spoiled. So how about double-sided fireplaces, or are they all just primarily up against the wall?
They're primarily up against the wall,
Okay.
but I've done double-sided.
Okay.
We're getting ready to do a big three-sided peninsula fireplace.
Whoa,
in
won't that be
Flagstaff.
cool?
Yeah.
So how would that work? Three-sided.
It is literally three-sided. It's open. It's actually an open-air wood-burning fireplace, three-sided. It's built. It's a very specific unit, very high-dollar unit for this house. But the way that it's built, it uses air suction to actually move the smoke back to the flue in the closed part of it, and then it gets vented like normal.
Because I've done three-sided gas, but I've not done the three-sided wood. That's interesting.
Yeah.
So when you light that, you can turn on the blower, and it'll...
Yep.
Wise. Good idea.
Interesting what's going on out there in the fireplace home building business.
So you get the crackle without the smoke. I like
Yes,
that.
exactly. That's kind of nifty. Okay, so three-sided, is one side open for s'mores?
On the wood burning, since I've only done the gas, you're going to have to let John explain that
it's
one.
open. It's got the wire mesh. You can,
Okay.
and it can be completely open all three
Okay,
sides.
hot dogs. Yes, we got
All
it
the
going.
above.
All the above.
I'm not so sure, though, that you want grease dripping in from dogs
Probably
and
not.
hot
Probably
hamburgers.
not. I think we'll just stick with the s'mores. Just stick with the s'mores. What about gutters?
We do those as well. So I have a gutter crew in Snowflake. I also have another one in Cornville. Our Cornville location will service both Cornville and Prescott Valley, and then we'll switch up on who's going to go do Flagstaff, depending on who's busy and who's not,
And what the weather's like.
and what the weather's like.
Yeah. Okay, so what type of gutter metal thickness do you use?
So I use a 20 gauge metal.
Okay.
We work directly with the manufacturer, so we order straight from them, which helps keep our cost down, which then keeps the customer's cost down. But we do a 6-inch seamless rain gutter.
Is that pretty standard?
It switches between 5-inch and 6-inch.
Okay.
But I do only the 5-inch, or excuse me, only the 6-inch, just because I've noticed that when we get a heavy monsoon rain, the 5-inch won't handle it.
Yep.
Sometimes even the 6-inch won't handle it, but the 6-inch will handle just about everything that we've got. And then I use all 3x4 downspouts.
Good for you.
Our typical 2x3, because if you do get that gully washer of a storm, you want that water to get out in the way as fast as possible. So we use the larger size on the downspouts.
Well, one of the other things is with tile roofs, whether it's flat or whether it's an S-tile, those will hang over the roof just slightly, whereas a asphalt shingle roof stops right there at the fascia, so you have a drip cap. So you want to have that extension. And so when the tile roofs started becoming into vogue, it wasn't long before they decided that, gee whiz, these 4-inch gutters aren't really working too well. And especially with the S-tile, because they tend to channel the water. And so I think it's wise, and I happen to agree, I would never go on a tile roof. I would never do anything less than a 6-inch.
So you install gutters on all of your new homes?
Yes, I do.
Perfect.
And the other thing that I like what John just said is the 3x4 gutters
Right.
instead of the 2x3s.
That's good.
Yep.
Okay, and you said yours were seamless.
Seamless.
Okay.
Correct.
So preventing any rusting or coming apart.
And you
and-
actually try to minimize
Right.
leaks as much as possible.
Do you sell and or install any sort of gutter topper?
Yeah, I've got leaf guards that we offer as an option on all of our builds. They're very popular at our Snowflake office because we work primarily in Show Low and Pine Top Lakeside, and
Lots
we're
of
overguards, so
trees.
lots of trees, lots of
Trees,
pine
yep.
needles.
Yep.
Okay, interesting.
Very cool.
So we're going to take another break, listeners. Was that our last break, Mr. Engineer? What's going on with our show? Why is it going so fast?
You're talking awfully quickly. You still have another full segment.
Oh, that's perfect. I feel so much better. Thank you, Engineer. John, with our Banker Insulation, our regional manager, Mr. John Myers, my wingman, Mr. Mike Enders, Bent Tree Custom Homes, and me, your YCCA girl, will be right back.
You're listening to Hammer Time, waking up with the YCCA, a presentation of the Yavapai County Contractors Association. Once again, here's your host, Sandy Griffiths.
This is our last segment. I would like additional segments, Engineer. He's going to say no. Watch this.
Have your people call my people.
Okay, I am. My people are going to call your people.
I have a feeling we're going to get 4 more segments.
I think we are, because
Next
we have
week.
some pretty nifty people. Okay.
Future predictions say no, according to the Magic 8 Ball.
Oh, funny. Okay, Mr. John Myers, Regional Manager, Banker Insulation. So what do you like about your job?
It's different every day. It's a challenge every day. I use math that I never thought that I would use when I was in high school or college. If my father was still around, he'd be laughing at me because he used to do the same thing. But it's different. I get to meet new people every day. I get to go to new locations every day. But I get inundated with emails all day, every day.
primarily from builders or?
Primarily from fellow employees.
Oh,
They're bothering me.
bothering you. We love our employees. So why does your job involve math?
Well, I've got lots of linear footages that I got to calculate,
Okay.
square footages,
Cubic footages.
cubic footages at times. So I use, Pythagorean theorems quite often.
Seriously? Okay, how many ounces in a cup?
That one, I don't know. Like 16?
8. So it's funny about the math, though, because that's something I'm always preached to our kids, but now preaching to the grandkids is I don't care what profession you are in, sooner or later,
You need math.
there's going to be a time where you're going to say, gosh, let's see, how do I figure this out?
Okay, so are you good with this angle B and this angle C, and what's the length of
Hypotenuse?
annual
Mhm.
A plus B?
A squared plus B squared equals C squared.
Wow, I'm taking you to my math challenge contest with me. So do you do it with calculator or is it all in your brain?
I do a lot of mine on handwritten
Oh,
measurement
you
sheets.
do? Okay, do you teach this to your children?
I have not yet because I've got a kindergartner and a third grader. so we're
Oh,
not
okay,
quite there yet.
they're not quite ready.
Just around the corner.
Yeah, it's coming.
Okay, so John could be a good resource when we move forward with our construction classes. He could be our math wizard.
Absolutely.
Do a lot of it.
Wow, that's so interesting. Do you balance your checkbook at home?
I don't have a checkbook.
So do you carry two IDs? Because I always have to laugh whenever I'm using cash. Excuse me, folks, here's a $50 bill. Do I need two forms of ID?
Right. Right. Well, yeah, I've got a 7-year-old and a 10-year-old. I haven't seen cash in 10 years. And a wife, so I really haven't seen any cash.
You use a little plastic card?
My card spends more time in my wife's wallet than it does in mine.
Oh, that's so funny. I like cash. I like to carry.
I
I
do too.
know. I like. My dad taught me that. How fun. Okay, back to John, our math wizard. Mike, do you do a lot of math?
Absolutely, absolutely. Like I said, it's amazing how much math comes into play. But I want to defer back to one, and I'm not trying to escape your question,
No,
but I
that's
wanted
okay.
to go back to one thing with the gutters, and the mill that he uses is very appropriate for gutters. But a lot of people say, well, gosh, how do you know how long of a gutter to order for my house? And that's the thing, that this material comes in a roll. And so if you've ever seen them parked alongside the road in front of a house, they're actually rolling this metal in through a former a machine that forms the K-style gutter and rolls out the other end. And so they have these little supports because they may have a 30, 40-foot piece of metal that's going continuous, and it'll go as long as they need in order to fit that one section. So it's, in essence, seamless.
Okay.
So it's a neat process.
So is the process then, are all of your gutters formed on site?
All on site.
Okay, so are all gutter companies the same?
No.
And the downspouts now, they generally order those
Those I do order
Okay.
pre-made
as opposed to
in
making them on
10-foot
site.
sections, and then we'll cut them to length.
So how long does it take to form gutters on site for a house? Days, 1 day, 2 hours?
1 day.
Okay.
Depending on how intricate and where
Okay.
all you want it to be.
Can your gutter material be painted?
It can. We have a wide variety of colors,
colors, okay.
that we can order in. I carry 7 colors in stock, and then other than that, I consider it to be a custom color that we'll order specifically for your job. But we anything that gets scratched, we'll paint. Any of the screw heads that we do put in, we'll paint. The straps that hold your downspout onto the wall, we'll paint up. Make sure it all matches.
Yeah, and generally, with that color selection process, usually you can find something that's very close to
Right.
your fascia color. But if somebody has a particular fascia color they want that's not going to be close enough, their gutters certainly can be painted.
Interesting. Okay. By a regular
By the
painter?
painter,
Okay,
correct.
got it.
Correct. So he'll come out, they'll form the gutters, put them on site. Generally speaking, he'll come out and paint them, and then they'll go ahead and hang them.
Yep.
Okay, well, that was a very good lesson on gutters. You don't do garage doors?
Don't do garage doors.
Okay, so fireplaces, gutters, and insulation.
Yep.
So what's your favorite component of all three of those?
I like the fireplaces just because I have gone out and helped with a lot of the installs.
Okay.
But installations are bread and butter.
Wonderful. So, Mike, do you have other questions for our genius, John?
He's answered all of them.
I know.
And I give him an A+ personally.
I will second that.
Well, thank you.
So, John, you get an A+. How can our listeners reach you should they have questions?
Yeah, you can come and stop by our office, 5790 Fulton Drive in Prescott Valley. We've got a small fireplace showroom, but I also have a digital one. If you go to bankerinsulation.com, you can check out our full range of fireplaces that are available and all of the different types of installation that we install, as well as all of our different locations. We have 9 locations in 2 states.
Oh, my word. Bless your heart. He is our road warrior.
Oh, I don't have to go to all 9
Oh,
of them.
thank goodness.
I only have 4 of them.
Okay, four is almost
that's
half.
enough.
Yeah, 4 is almost half of 9. That's enough, is right. What about, I know where Fulton Drive is in Prescott Valley. I see your insulation trucks on the road from time to time, so good for you. And you like insulation the best.
I do.
Bread and butter.
Yeah.
Okay, perfect. How many employees does our Prescott Valley office have? Our Prescott area?
Let's see, I have 3 installers, and they do it all, and they have been with me 15, 20 years now.
Oh my
So,
gosh.
And then I have 3 office staff. I've got an office manager, a production manager, and a sales and estimator.
And you meet regularly.
Well, I see them every day.
Okay.
I've got 15 employees in Snowflake. I have 12 employees in Cornville, and there's an untold number of employees in Flagstaff.
Man, I'm happy that you have your job.
Yeah.
It's a bunch of people.
I know it's a bunch of people, and Mike, I don't know if you've noticed, but he's got like a gazillion cell phones
I do.
he's carrying around. I mean, holy moly. We think we have it bad with one.
Well, but he fits into the Wild West because he used to be 2 6-shooters, and
Yeah.
now it's 2 cell phones.
Okay, perfect. So share your phone number and your Prescott Valley address one more time,
So
John.
the address is 5790 Fulton Drive.
Very easy to find.
The phone number is 928-772-2544.
Perfect. So, listeners, John, Mike, and me will be right back to wrap up our show for this weekend. Don't move.
You're listening to Hammer Time, waking up with the YCCA, a presentation of the Yavapai County Contractors Association. Once again, here's your host, Sandy Griffiths.
We're back on air. What a great program, John, this morning, educating our gazillions of listeners.
Yep, and ourselves. So thank you very much.
Yes, it was
You're
very
welcome.
educational. Fireplaces, gutters, and insulation. I'm still kind of impressed with the amount of insulation changes, and how do we educate people on what they should be using? And cheaper, less expensive is not always the best.
Yeah.
So, listeners, what an enjoyable show this morning. Thank you for tuning in to Hammer Time, brought to you by Yavapai County Contractors Association. We'll see you in a few weeks at the home show, where we will be doing a live broadcast. Is that correct, Mr. Engineer?
That's right.
So we'll be on the feet on the ground,
And that would be on the Saturday presentation, correct?
or Friday. What are we going to do?
Oh, we will be there recording on Friday.
Perfect,
Great.
yes.
I'll be there then.
Yeah.
That live walk around.
I know, it's
Let
always
everybody know
fun.
we just wander around with a microphone.
Yeah, and say, hey, talk to us.
I'm looking forward to that because I have to miss Saturday, but I will look forward to being there on Friday.
I get led around like a puppy on a string.
That just happens to be a cord, that's
Yes.
all.
See you at the home show. See you next week. Thanks for tuning in to Hammer Time. I'm Sandy,
I'm Mike.
I'm John.
and we say bye-bye.
Bye-bye.